Hello there YouTube, this is Tycooners Steve, and welcome to episode 2 of our Subscriber Zoo Let's Play. Well, the votes came in after the last episode, and the thing that was most requested was a duck pond. Actually, a lot of different types of birds were requested, a lot of wading birds, but mostly ducks was the number one thing, so we're going to go ahead and start our zoo off with a duck pond today. And I'm going to try to do something a little different. I looked around and I saw there were a few people who had already done Let's Plays and duck ponds on Zoo Tycoon 2, but they're always kind of, you do usually find them at the beginning of the zoo because, well, that makes sense. It's where you usually do find duck ponds because they're fairly simple and really attractive to the opening of the zoo, but they're usually built like on the side and you just kind of walk past them. So I thought to make this a little bit different, what we're going to do with our duck pond is make it so that you had to walk over it, and that way the duck pond would kind of work as a way to separate the front admissions area from the zoo proper. So you see I'm going to go ahead and put a pier? Is that the word? No, I'm a bridge. Let's just call it a bridge across the water here. And that way you're going to have to walk across our beautiful duck pond. Hopefully beautiful duck pond. I mean, I know it's beautiful because I'm actually recording this after I did it. That's why the words are going to match up with the speed build. I just talk super fast. You can believe that if you want to. But we're going to use our duck pond here as that separation. And you might have noticed earlier I also brought up Canadian geese there. I'm going to be using Muscovy ducks for our ducks, but I'm also going to include Canadian geese for two reasons. One, I've been to several zoos in my life that had duck ponds, and in every single one of them they were overtaken by Canadian geese. If you don't know, Canadian geese are migratory birds, and on their way north or south, depending on what time of year it is, they do stop off at a large body of waters to like chill and stuff, and for some reason the zoo duck ponds seem to be like one of their major things. So I'm doing that both because, well, the Canadian geese that I have, I'm not entirely sure where they came from, but they look fantastic. So I want to do them because they look great, and also because it just feels more realistic to me to have a bunch of Canadian geese hoarding in on our ducks territory. So definitely going to use that. Let me go ahead and start talking about the actual video that's going on here. So you might see that I'm having a little problem laying this bridge down because I made a super mistake. First of all, to get a bridge that's like flat across like that, you do have to have Snow Leo's combi pack downloaded. Links in the description, presumably. But you also have to get the ground flattened just right. And you see that once I put a path down in front of that wall there, it let me go ahead and put that down, and that's the trick I was forgetting. In order to get that ground perfectly smooth, you want to lay a path down on it, and that'll let you do it. Alright. And I also wanted to make sure that I remembered to include this little upper part in the bridge here, because if it lays perfectly flat across the ground, neither our ducks nor our Canadian geese nor even our zookeepers will be able to walk from one end of the exhibit to the other. So that's something to keep in mind here if you are going to build a path in the middle of an exhibit. You need to have a little upper area, or a little raised area on the path, the elevated path, so that your animals and zookeepers can get through. Alright. And so, let me go ahead and what did I do next? I think okay, I just kind of expanded that out because I wanted to create more room for the zookeepers here. I wanted to make sure, since the Canadian geese can only, their food supplies aren't going to be allow them to get food out of the water, I wanted to make sure there was enough room where I could put down, you know, fresh water bowls and whatever they eat there. So that's why I added that little extra space. And I think I'm going to do the same thing. Yeah, I did the same thing over here. Add a little extra space there. I should talk about the fences I'm using here. Are these cable fences. I really like these guys. They look great. The only problem is if you are doing a challenge zoo instead of a freeform, there's a little problem with your coating, so your guest actually can't see through them, even though they appear to be a see-through fence. But you know, I'm doing a freeform zoo here in sandbox mode, so I'm going to go ahead and use them. And they have the added bonus that they do have a matching pair of railings for an elevated path, so that's why I wanted to use them there. And let's see, moving on. Let's do a bridge cover, I think. Yep, we're doing the bridge cover next. Now, ideally, what I would want to do is cover the entire bridge, but because we did have that elevated area, you'll see in a moment that I have to kind of break this up into like 3 different little covered parts, just because there's no way to get a triangular roof that's going up a slope that I am aware of. So if anybody knows the trick to that, please let me know in the comments below. But as far as I'm aware, there's no coding that currently allows you to do that. And you can see I'm putting like the little triangular parts here just to make it look more like a traditional covered bridge. And I'm doing that because I think that fits with the motif that I've chosen for the zoo so far. Kind of like a park or city zoo, something like real simple and quaint and quiche. Quiche is a word? No, it's kitsch. Kitsch was the word I was looking for. I don't know why I said quiche. That's like something that tastes like quiche, I guess would be quiche, but no. Kitsch was the word I was going for. That's what we were trying to do with the general aesthetic of that zoo right now, so that's what I'm going for with sort of the covered bridge. I thought that would fit in really well. It's another reason why I wanted to do the duck pond this way. So we'll go ahead and finish off the rooftop real quick. La-da-da, you see I'm just going through, do-do-do. And I get way too impatient and try to delete a whole bunch of things at once when I should just delete them one at a time because I'm using multiple levels of a elevated path. But, you know, live and learn and then do the same mistake next time. That's usually my plan. I just keep making the same mistakes over and over. Otherwise, how would I know how to do it? At this point, I don't know how to do it without making that mistake, so that's just what I'm going to do from now on. But you see, like, there's a little space in between the coverings, between the high part and the low parts, just because I don't believe there's any way to get that triangle roof pattern thing to work for that area. So if it's raining the day you visit the zoo, you will have to kind of run in between the bridges. I do apologize for that. But we'll go ahead here and start laying our pillars down. I'm going to try to take a little more care to do just little touches like this, putting in these railings here just to make everything look like it's actually working, and trying to sort of tweak the edges, make everything look really, really nice and neat on this zoo. I do find I have a tendency when I'm doing like the Let's Plays, particularly towards the end of them, where I feel like I need to just sort of push out an episode. But since this one's going to take longer anyway, I should finish that last thought. Since I feel like I need to push out an episode, I sometimes sort of skip the fine detail work. I find, not on purpose, it's just kind of like when I look back at them, I'm like, you know, I could have gone back and maybe touched this up here, or done a little something here, or I had a really neat item I could have used to make this look a little fancier. And so I'm going to try to, since this series is a little bit going to come out a little slower, due to the fact that I have to kind of wait for the votes to come in to know what I'm doing next, I'm going to try to use that as an excuse to force myself to really pay attention to the finer details. Like for example, you'll notice that I'm leaving a little path here from the main walking area to the place where the gate goes. And the idea is I'm just trying to simulate like the path the zookeeper would take to get into the duck pond. So instead of just kind of paving it over or putting down a regular old like cement path like I've done in the past, I'm just going to leave sort of this trail open and make it look like grass has grown up for the most part around it, but there's still like an area that somebody's clearly walking down every day, indicated by this dirt here. So hopefully that's what the impression it's going to leave once everything is done here. I should mention those flowers too. It's something that I'm doing a lot now. I find it's really, really great, or it looks fantastic to me at least, to use those flowers as borders. You might remember from the first episode I used them to do that little zoo sign out front, and here I'm just kind of using them to go around our path instead of putting down like a low fence there like I have traditionally. I think this actually looks a lot better. It's a little more time consuming, but I think the actual effect of it is much better. And we're just throwing it down here. And what else? I think at this point, I was very happy at this point to remember that I do have a duck crossing sign. That made me really happy when I realized that. It was something I was actually going to grab, the lamppost here. I thought that was going to fit more in with that like kitschy feel of a city park or a city zoo, like I talked before. But then I saw those crossing signs and my eyes lit up. And I was like a young child at Christmas, looking at all the wrapping paper scattered about. And here I forgot that fence, so I was glad I caught that. But yeah, I really like the duck crossing sign. And we're going back to using these flowers as our borders here. I might actually be using this too much. I love the look of it, particularly the white followed by the orange. You'll see I use that a lot, or I intend to use that a lot, both this, but I'm doing it, I find, almost in every single thing I start up or think about right now, so let me know if that's getting old. The effect looks great, but I know it kind of gets boring if I do the same thing in every episode. And now I'm going to throw down this snack bar. I'm pretty sure you get the snack bar at Feral Designs, but my thought was if this is going to be the area where like the zoo proper starts, I was going to make like a little guest area. So the idea is they've paid for their tickets, they've gone to the bathroom or whatever they've had to do, and now they're ready to enter the zoo itself. And so I'm immediately going to try to build them for as much money as I possibly can, as a good businessman owning a zoo would do. Obviously, I mean that's what you do. So I just threw down that snack bar, put an actual working Zoo Tycoon 2 snack thing in it, and we just fill in the ATM in the background here. I don't know if those trees came that way in this map. I don't know if I'm going to keep them or not. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start building up our actual pond here to make it working for our geese and our duckies. And the geese, actually, I wasn't even planning on doing this, or it's not the geese, it's the ducks that have these wetland rocks, which I think look really great if you just kind of stack up those little ones. And I used a big one there, but usually I just kind of stack up those little ones and go with the breathing roots. Just to make it look like that this is sort of a functioning ecosystem is the idea that this pond is not 100% artificial. That's at least the impression I want to give, so I'm going to put in like a lot of pond scum and these bulrushes, and eventually I'm going to put in cattails just as a flourish of color, just built up around anything that's kind of interfering with the flow. The idea being that if this was a natural occurring pond, that anything that interrupted the water would cause like the pond scum and stuff to build up around it. So that's the idea. We're going to go through here, and we're going to just kind of build up the background so you can't really see the fence too much when you're looking at the land area, which is always a good idea, I think. It kind of takes away the artificiality. There are, of course, some exhibits where you want it to look really fake, because you want it to look like a real zoo would make it look. But in this one, since it is supposed to be like a naturally occurring wetlands pond, I'm just going to build it up and hide the fences as much as possible. I might have gone a little crazy with the trees here since I put down both that pond cypress and this Indian mangrove, but I do like the looks. Oh, and I should mention the reason I'm using the Muscovy ducks. They do not look as good as the Canadian geese, but they are really functional in the fact that they will actually dive under the water and get food. So like you saw, I put down those two food buoys, and now I'm dumping a whole bunch of bait fish into the water just to make it look right. And oh, real quick before I forget, you saw there that I was kind of like bringing that grass into it. The idea is that I'm using that grass as sort of a I'm using it outside of the exhibits to kind of just fill in areas of every zoo. It's kind of supposed to be the thing that's like naturally growing there, and so I wanted to again just kind of like blur where the exhibit begins and where the fence, or where the outside of the exhibit is, by allowing that grass to exist both outside and inside. I think that really brings up the realistic. It's almost like, you know, you can't get a mower there. It's not practical to do anything about it, so that grass is sort of allowed to creep in. Like this pond was built long ago, and long ago no grass, now grass is there because that's just how entropy works. So that was the idea there. That's a really good thing. But the bait fish, I'm putting those in both because it'll make the ducks happy, but it's also going to make it so our pond is filled with fish. So when you look in there, it's not going to look like it's completely barren or completely sterile. It's going to look like a natural ecosystem with plenty of different kinds of fish in there to make the world go around. Because that's what fish do, right? They make the world go around. I'm pretty sure a wizard told me that once. And okay. Oh, and here I found out that my ground was not quite as level as I hoped. So it's an easy fix if that ever happens to you. Just go to the pole that is the correct height and flatten the ground from there. And then once you go back to that pole, you'll see it comes out pretty much just about right. So that was a real quick, easy fix there. Alright, so you might have noticed that I was kind of prepping this building earlier. This really came from the fact that I decided to use the pond as a separation between the admittance area and the park proper. So I figured over here I would build a combination guest relations and first aid station. So that's what this building here is going to be. And I'm just laying down the ground here. And it's a fairly simple building. I didn't want it to be super huge or like dominate the area. And here I just remembered I needed to put down a donation box. Not as important, of course, in a sandbox zoo, but still kind of important. And tile the floor. I really like these tiles. I'm not 100% sure where I got them. I know you can find them somewhere on the Zoo Tycoon 2 download wiki. The flag. The flag was very important to me. Yeah, you wanted to put a flag there because, as I mentioned, this is going to be partially a first aid station, and usually when you put in a first aid station in a theme park or a zoo or something like that, you want to put something like tall next to it that you can see from a distance, so that way if somebody is hurt, it's very easy for them to locate the first aid station. So that's why I wanted to put that flag there. It gave a little bit of realism. It also looks pretty nice, but the idea being that if somebody did like twist their ankle or something, you could point them towards the flag from a distance and they could take care of that. And of course it did delete a lot of my flowers there. So we'll go ahead and just fill those flowers back in. And then we'll steal this pine bush. And you can see that looks pretty good, I think. It's fairly simple, but it looks like it's on purpose. And I think at this point I realized I forgot to put in these big blue stems. It's a plant I really like to go with the grass because you can kind of just drop them here and there, and it just makes it look like it's not quite so much a monoculture. That it's a little more wild growing, because the idea is that grass is not being super well tended. That's kind of outside the purview. It might get mowed every now and then, but nobody's really griping over it. And go ahead and just lay this down here. And you'll notice I did do this first area as a multi-level roofs, and for some reason, I don't know why, but I find that multi-level roofs in this game make buildings look so much better. So I do recommend, if you have the ability to do that, to do it. And you can also see I'm kind of cheating here, putting that level 2 roof over my first aid area, and that's just so I have a place to put out these letters here, so I can clearly mark it as a first aid. Interestingly enough, I couldn't find like any first aid signage anywhere before I did this. I don't know why. You think somebody would come up with that, but still, I think it came out pretty good using the white wallpaper to make it stand out. And then going ahead and just writing first aid on it, I think that's pretty noticeable from a distance. So I can live with that. I think I'm going to live with that just fine. And then of course we also want to sign up our guest relations booth here. And I went with the blue simply to contrast it with the first aid. Guest services is probably something that's a little more serious than the lowercase blue letters, but since it's right next to the first aid, that's what I decided to go with. And this is also a bonus of making multi-layered or multi-height buildings, is that you can kind of trick your signage to allow you for more words. You can see I got guest and services there by just kind of cheating. Alright, so let's take a quick look here while I'm still super fast. And I think I'm just going to go through and fix some edges here and make it look like it's more filled in. And, steal some trees, fill out the background. Again, I'm just trying to get the impression that this has been around for a while now, and it's not something we just created. Hence the big trees in the background and grass is growing kind of wild everywhere. But we'll go ahead and drop in our Muscovy ducks there, and I believe that there is a difference between males and females in the models there, and we definitely want our Canadian geese. Just plopping a couple of these guys down. I wish I could remember exactly where those Canadian geese come from. I do apologize for that. I can't quite pull that up in my head. But I'm positive that if you search Canadian geese at the Zoo Tycoon 2 wiki, you're going to find them, and you're going to love them as much as I do, because they look great. Yep. And final checks around. I don't remember if I put anything else. Oh, that's right, the gumball machine. I have a little brain fart here. Basically what I wanted to do was find like a feeder, so if like people wanted to buy duck food to feed it, and I kind of checked to see this the elephant peanut feeder would work quite right, but that didn't look great. So the closest thing I could come up with was this gumball machine here, which it looks like a gumball machine when you look at it up close, so it's not super, but it's not bad either. And I'm going to go ahead and put our zookeepers in at this point, multiple zookeepers, because, well, birds create a lot of waste product, and so you want a lot of people to clean. But let's go ahead and do our final walkthrough now. And you see we're coming up, and then take a look around. I actually think that bridge came out fairly well, even though I had to kind of section it off like that. We'll make a right-hand turn here to get a good look at our guest services / first aid booth. And oh, it looks like our guest service person's actually working today. That's a nice change. We'll go inside real quick. Just put those tiles down. Kind of a sterile looking room, but I'm okay with that. It worked good. And we'll go out here and take a look at our pond from all angles. Here it is on the left hand side, like you're exiting the front restrooms. And we can see our ducks from here. Like I said, unfortunately that fence won't work for guests seeing through, but we can see through it just well. Let me back up here a sec. Beautiful, beautiful ducks. I believe the white-headed ones are the males. Oh, there's one that's all white. So they got a couple different models. Very good, very good. Like I said, the main reason I use those ducks, even though I don't think they're the best looking ones, is that they function really, really well, and they'll dive down to get those bait fish and those buoys. And let's go ahead. I didn't see any geese there. They must be up. There's some geese over on this side. Let's take a look, because like I said, these models are fantastic. I love the look of these geese. Wish they would dive under the water too, but that's okay, because look at that. That's great. That's great. How could you not love that? I love it. How could you not? Alright, and oh, did I see someone waddling free there? I think I did. Oh, I know, they are able to escape. I didn't put any gates underneath the bridge to stop them from escaping, so they can go out. Now, I do have the domestic creatures hack, so this won't be a problem. Like, people won't run in terror because they're free. At the same point, I'll probably end up building a little fence. Oh, there's another one. A little fence underneath the bridge to keep them in. Just because if they run free, they also go far, far away from their water and their food, and that causes issues. But I think the snack area came out good. Let's check out the view from the snack area. You're looking directly back at the toilet, so that's not optimum, but I think it'll be okay. And so I think that does it. That is our duck pond. I do hope you enjoy it. And now the question is, what are we going to do in the future? It's going to be the same rules as before. Just go ahead and leave a comment below, voting for what you want to see. I will give it 3 days. Whichever exhibit has the most votes in 3 days is the one I will be building next. You can see we still got a ton of room, so don't hesitate to vote. And if you like this video, also be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That's what makes me happy. It's what makes YouTube happy, more importantly, so be sure to do it.